afternoon. Welcome to my presentation. My name is Sam Waterhouse, and I'm going to talk to you today about an actual research project that I did during my Phase 3 placement at ljmu. It was an investigation to see how pupil voice can impact on summative assessment during GCSE PE theory lessons. So the purpose of the study: basically, during my lessons, I taught a unit of work, and after each unit, the normal kind of procedure the school goes through is to produce a written examination or a timed test over a certain duration that the pupils would fill out and demonstrate their knowledge and understanding through. So I followed the procedure, and from that, before the timed test, pupils were complaining, "Sir, we don't prefer this type of assessment. Sir, I don't like doing tests. I can't show what I really know through tests." So I thought, well, we need to try and sort that out then. So they did the test, and when it came to marking the test, the marks were quite low, and it didn't actually show what the pupils actually told me and showed me during formative assessment within the unit of work. So during the class, their knowledge and understanding couldn't get interpreted through an exam. So from that, I came up with an idea that we could maybe try and ask the pupils how they like to be assessed during these end-of-unit tests or end-of-unit assessments. So as you can see, through the GCSE syllabus, we follow different units and we try to assess them to see what the pupils know at the end of each unit. So the hypothesis of the investigation suggests that through pupil voice, pupils prefer to have a choice on how they are assessed rather than just these timed tests. And the null hypothesis shows that through pupil voice, pupils actually prefer to be assessed through timed tests than other form of assessment. So here's a bit of literature on assessment. As you can see, when assessing pupils, it allows us to see their strengths and weaknesses and how they can improve. It kind of gives us an insight into the overall picture of what they know really, and maybe the gaps that they don't really know, so we can try and fill them in for the final assessment. As you can see there as well, when we're teaching PE, assessment is a key tool for teachers to allow them to see what we can do for future planning. So if the pupils don't understand how you teach or a certain strategy, how you teach, it allows you to plan and change differently. And also, it allows you to assess what grade you think they're going to be at. Obviously, as teachers, we're in the business that we have to get the pupils the best grades possible. So through through summative assessment, through assessments, it allows us to see what type of standard the pupils are at and to see what grade we can get them to by the end of the unit and hopefully by the end of the year. And as you can see there on the board, it says assessment and monitoring is not about putting the red ticks on a page or a cross. It's about seeing what's not so good about a piece of work and what's good about a piece of work, and then filling in the gaps to see how improvements can be made. So like I said, we're going to involve pupil voice within this assessment, within this investigation, sorry. And through pupil voice, it makes sense to go straight to the source. It goes to go straight to where we're going to get the information from, and that's the pupils, involving pupils in their assessment. And through pupil voice, it makes the pupils feel quite confident and be welcomed into the school. It allows them to have a bit of responsibility also in how they're being assessed, and makes them think of different ways on how they can be assessed. And through pupil voice, this can happen. As you can see there as well, it says it reforms the school. It kind of brings the school together and it allows the pupils to express their opinions in different ways. The concept of hearing pupils in the school gives them a kind of a voice in their decision making. And I know Ashton and Mersey, they do like to promote pupil voice, whether it's a policy in the school that they're changing, or whether it's how the pupils are taught, or maybe how the school's going to change. So it's about how the pupils are being taught. Why don't we give them a voice in how they're being assessed, and like an option of how they're being assessed. So the ways we can incorporate pupil voice to improve assessment. As you can see there, there's a picture of the school council, which is a dominant feature within the school. We can use the school council to hold discussions, just like you would if you had a problem in your local area. You'd go to your council, your local council. If there's an issue in how you're being assessed, the school council's there to promote pupil voice, and also to promote different ways how you might want to be assessed and how pupils might want to be assessed within the school. Suggestion boxes are a great one. You put them on the side of your lesson, or you put them sort of around the school, and allows pupils to express how they feel. But before the lesson, you might have a suggestion box and say, I'm going to ask you now, can you put a suggestion in there how you like to be assessed? And it just gives you an insight into how the pupils prefer to be assessed. Whole school assemblies. So if you're a head of year, or maybe it's your form's time to do an assembly, you can promote pupil voice and promote how pupils like to be assessed within your assemblies. Have discussions, online forums. On the other hand, people might say that they do get abused, but also it's another form of pupil voice and another form to see how pupils like to be assessed. And finally, questionnaires is a great one. Questionnaires are cost effective, cost hardly anything to produce, and also to gain a lot of information through. And doing questionnaires, obviously you don't have to put your name on, so they are anonymous, which benefits the person who's taking part, because they put down really what they really believe and what they're thinking at that time. So purposes of assessment, there's different purposes of assessment. So as you can see there, formative assessment is ongoing assessment throughout the lessons, and it's to see what the pupils know and to get, as a teacher, what improvements we can do within the lesson. So it's to see what they know throughout. Can we progress, or do we have to take a step back and go over what we've just learned? As you can see there, it's assessment for learning, and it's to meet the needs of all pupils. What we're going to look at here is summative assessment, and that's a dominant feature within this investigation. It's focusing on what occurs at the end of units, what occurs at the end of lessons. Summative assessment is the final assessment to see what the pupils have learned over the duration of the unit. As you can see, through the end of unit tests or exams that we do at Ashton, pupils don't prefer summative assessment in the form of an exam. And that's what we're going to look at through this investigation, summative assessment. So as you can see there, summative assessment gives the teachers an idea of what's done over a period of time. So what the pupils have taken in, their knowledge and understanding of the unit or a particular area, and how they express their knowledge and understanding through that assessment. And Ashton, it's normally through end of unit tests or exams. So, as you see here, assessment of learning, which is summative assessment, from Harlan 2006. There's a diagram here that shows that pupils are given a test or an activity to do. It's then evidenced through an activity, such as the information put down on a time test. It's then judged normally through a teacher and their professional opinion or from a criteria, and then reported what grade and what result you've got from the assessment. So from a test to what you write down on a piece of paper on the exam, from the teacher marking you on the report, at the beginning there, you can change that. It doesn't have to be a timed test through assessment. It can be through different alleyways, such as presentations, or even coursework, essay forms, group discussions, role plays. These are things we can change within summative assessment within Ashton and Mersey. So, the methodology of the investigation. Within my class, we gave out questionnaires to the 14 pupils within the class. From that, they filled them out by themselves, and it was anonymous. ethical considerations that took place was that it's anonymous. There was no need for the person not to put down the truth, because basically their views were going to take into consideration, but their name wasn't going to be represented on the questionnaire. All the data was collected and was kept securely within my locked container in my office. The limitations of the study was that it was only one GCSE class, so it wasn't geographically represented, and it was only a small sample size. Obviously, as a researcher, I tried to get as many samples as possible, but it's impossible really to go into different schools throughout the country and do it. It's just time consuming, and it's just more convenient for me. And the sample target size and population was just in my Year 11 GCSE class. So through the methodology, like I said, we used questionnaires before, because they're cost effective. They didn't take much to collect and produce, and also, again, it's anonymous, so it promotes the truth of people think through pupil voice. So from the questionnaires, we handed them out, and we collected them in, and we analysed them, and then that gave us great kind of themes that we could use within our class discussion that we did, where everyone discussed and debated how they like to be assessed, summatively assessed, and also different ways pupil voice can affect their assessment. So through data analysis that led from the data collection, we took all the information from the took all the information from the questionnaire and put it in a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and from that we came up with different graphs and data to compare. When they were collected and analysed, we put them into different tables, as you can see over here. Table 1 is a chart that shows did pupils prefer or not prefer the time tests at the end of each unit. And as you can see, 10 pupils out of the 14 did not actually prefer to be assessed through time tests, and only 4 prefer to be assessed through time tests. This shows that the summative assessment that they're doing within the school, within PE, at the end of each GCSE unit, is not preferred by the pupils. They don't enjoy doing it, and as you can see, they've expressed that through the questionnaires. From the discussion then, following on from that, it said that pupil 1 there said that I find it quite hard to remember everything within the exam, and it feels quite under pressure to do it within the short time duration of just 1 hour. This is another reason why pupils prefer to go other ways and want to try other assessments within their GCSE PE lessons. As you see at the bottom there, pupil 2 said, I'm used to tests, I've done them all my life, so why should I change now? It prepares me for the real exam. So on the other hand, you've got pupils that want to change how they're assessed, but you've got other pupils, there's 4 of them out of the 14, who prefer to be assessed in an exam, because at the end of the day, GCSE has an exam, AQA, EdExcel, there's an exam at the end of it, and that's what they're prepared for. So why present through presentations or essays or coursework when you want to practice for an exam? And that's the key thing why 4 people within the class actually prefer the exams. So on table 2 here, you can see a chart that shows the different options what people within the class preferred to do for summative assessment. As you see there, the majority of them do actually prefer to be assessed through coursework. And it's quite concerning really, because at the beginning of the year they had a choice to do BTEC or go down the GCSE route, and they understood that at the end of the GCSE 2 years, year 10 and 11, there's actually an exam at the end of it, and exams throughout. So if they knew that, why didn't they go down the BTEC route? So from that, as you can see here, pupil 3 suggested that coursework is good because it allows the pupils to show their information over a longer period and prepare it rather than just a 1 hour test. So being pressurised within the 1 hour was a key theme that came out of the investigation. We should get a choice of how we are assessed to show the teacher what we can do in different ways. So here, through the discussion, we promoted and we discussed about different ways pupil voice can affect summative assessment, and the pupils agreed that they should have a choice. They should be able to voice their opinion, and maybe at the start of the year have an option of which assessment they're going to do throughout, and stick with that throughout the GCSE units. So as you can see here, like I said, coursework was a major part of the investigation that came out in the results. Presentations as well. Individuals wanted to do presentations, but just like the test, they felt quite pressurised. Some people felt nervous as well within the discussions. They said they felt nervous within presentations and would prefer to do maybe an essay to promote what their understanding of GCSE theory. So they're the results. So evaluations and reflections from the discussions, from the questionnaires, we found out basically that exams and tests aren't for everyone. Within GCSE PE, obviously at the end they have to do an exam, but we're assessing them at the end of each unit with a summative assessment. Try something different. We should listen to the pupils how they want to be assessed, because at the end of the day they're going to show us their knowledge and understanding. But on the flip side, on the contrary, they've got to do an exam at the end of it. So why not prepare them through the exam? Or one assessment doesn't suit for everyone, and that showed within the results. Only 4 pupils out of 14 preferred tests. 10 of them did not prefer it, so it isn't for everyone. So in conclusion, like I said, the purpose of the study was to investigate how GCSE pupils prefer to be assessed. And on the first slide in the study, it showed that the hypothesis said that pupils would prefer other options than time tests to be assessed in at the beginning of the unit, and that was proven within the investigation. So the null hypothesis that they prefer time tests was proved wrong. The study recognises that pupils prefer other ways to be assessed, like we said, with presentations, even someone said about an essay form. Coursework was majority, and that is quite worrying, because like I said before, they had an option at the start of year 10 to go down the BTEC route or the accredited GCSE route. And within pupil voice, within this investigation, it's just proven that when we give the pupils an option of how they like to be assessed, they were very mature about it, and they came up with various options and various routes that we can go down in the future to assess them. Recommendations. So from that, recommendations, more pupil voice within the school can show, not just in GCSE PE, but throughout the different classes and years within the school. Ask the pupils how they like to be assessed. I don't just assume that a time test will get the best out of everyone. The exam boards, NXL, AQA, they can take in this information. Obviously it's just from a small sample size, so they won't obviously listen to this, but they should take the information, maybe do a study throughout the country, and take in information from all the students, how they like to be assessed. Is the traditional exam route the best way now? Because obviously pupils within the school, well my class anyway, prefer other ways how to be assessed, rather than just going down the exam route. And finally, teachers like myself, from this investigation, is proving that we need to listen to the pupils, listen to what they believe is the best way for them to be assessed, and maybe agree and ask them at the start of the year for the units, how would you like to be assessed? Some might like to change and have half the class doing tests and exams, half the class might want to do a presentation to show what they know. But as you know as well, tests are done within the hour and it's marked. Presentations, coursework is a longer duration. Sometimes within GCSE PE, you don't normally have that time to waste in a way. But as you can see, there are recommendations. Here's the references which are shown throughout the study. That's it in my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.